Alrighty, so today we'll be having an informative speech over African American hair in society. Big hair was taken from an African American culture and forced to fit into European standards in order to be considered beautiful. Society has put an incredible strain on African American hair to look and behave a certain way, such as wanting a chemical processing treatment to make African American hair become straight. The diverse styles in media have somewhat grown to integrate the return of more natural textures. Something as simple as natural hair brings so much controversy in today's society. The biggest problem is how people see it, how the military hasn't accepted it. African American women are slowly growing to make African American hair acceptable. The choice to wear it is theirs and theirs alone. The bias against African American hair has been in America for centuries. Thirsty Roots tells us in the 18th century, British colonists categorized African American hair as sheep wool instead of human hair. Enslaved African American women who had less kinky hair and more European textured hair and had lighter skin were often raped on plantations, and they also received better treatment. They became known as house slaves. They were by far treated better than the typical African American women with typical African American features. After freedom, straight hair continued to be a requirement for social and political opportunities. Most African American women gave into the idea that natural hair wasn't acceptable. In the 20th century, African American women wore their hair in straightened styles that were often achieved by wearing wigs, using hot combs, or even going to the extremes of dangerously chemically processing their hair with relaxers. It wasn't until the 1960s that the Black Power movement declared black is beautiful, and soon the afro became a popular hairstyle. First at rallies, political protests, and eventually celebrities like Pam Grier and Michael Jackson began to adapt the idea. Strawberry Curl says African American hair was still not acceptable in many work and political settings. In the 1980s, civil rights groups led boycotts against the Hyatt Hotel for terminating a female employee for wearing cornrows. In 1999, the carrier for FedEx was also fired for wearing dreadlocks. The military has also had trouble with hair. The U.S. Army is in the latest news with their standards on African American hair. Army.com states that in March 2014, the Army released a quote-unquote updated version on appearance and grooming. The policy was known as AR 670-1. It applies to all Army personnel, including students, those serving on ROTC, National Guard. No distinction was made between race, ethnicity, only gender, regulations regarding hair between women and men. It's hard to believe that certain distinctions were not pertain specifically to African American women, since they discuss hairstyles like cornrows, braids, twists, and dreadlocks, severely limiting to almost completely banning them. These hairstyles are more commonly worn by African American women. African American women just want a policy that reflects the basic understanding of African American hair. Naturally Curly lets us know that most African American people's natural hair grows up and outward, like the shape of an afro. Naturally, hair doesn't commonly grow down. The Army regulation assumes that all hair grows the same way, so therefore it can be styled the same. A common and allowed hairstyle is a bun. Due to the thickness of a lot of African American hair, a bun isn't always possible unless the hair is put into twists first. The regulation bans twists and dreadlocks no matter how narrow or neat they are. In the policy, they are labeled as faddish and quote-unquote exaggerated. Growing up in the 90s, you didn't see so much natural hair. So my mother, she gave me a perm because I didn't want to look quote-unquote nappy, as they call it. Going to school, I used to think that natural hair was ugly and nappy and not socially acceptable. Then I realized, how can I hide who I am? This is my hair, and I was born with it. So it was either to deal with having your scalp burn every 2 weeks or be happy and nappy. So I decided to shave it all off and go natural. So being an African American woman with natural hair, it is extremely hard to find styles that makes your hair accordance with the military regulations when going to work. I've spent so much money for my hair to fall into regulations to make it quote unquote acceptable. Especially the longer it became, the harder it was to maintain in regulations. If a person doesn't have African American hair, or isn't married to someone with African American hair, or isn't raising a child with African American hair, this issue may seem like nothing. When you go to work and you're constantly being nagged because someone with a different hair texture thinks your natural hair is quote unquote faddish, just because they've never seen it before, that one word faddish then makes it out of regulation, and therefore it needs to be fixed. Society didn't help much either. Just in 2012, I finally seen celebrities such as Oprah wear her natural hair on magazines. I was happy that CNN finally brought up a common issue. When walking into the store, if the stairs aren't enough, you get those brave souls who ask to touch it, or just those people who decide to touch it. Many people think this common act isn't a big deal, but it is. So why is it so hard to accept the natural look of yourself and other African American women? This is something that shouldn't be banned. We should be able to go to work and be ourselves. The military and society needs to catch up and accept this is who we are. African American hair is indeed beautiful, and as a proud African American woman, I invite you to come along and see how gorgeous we are and how much history we have in our hair. Thank you.